My dear students, today we are discussing about the business economics and financial analysis, session 3. In this session 3, we are discussing about the economics concepts. So, in the first session 1 and session 2, we discussed about the business. In the session 3, we are discussing about the economics concepts. Then what is the syllabus as per the JNTU-H? The syllabus as per the JNTU-H is Introduction to Business Economics. In the first session we discussed about the business. In the second session we discussed about the business. Third session we are discussing about the economics. Then what is the syllabus? Significance of economics, micro and macroeconomic concepts, concepts and importance of national income, inflation, money supply in inflation, business cycles, futures and phases of business cycle, nature and scope of business economics, role of business economist, multidisciplinary nature of business economics. Then what is the learning objectives of this particular session? The learning objectives of the particular session is understanding the micro and macroeconomic concepts. Second objective is understanding the difference between micro and macroeconomics. Third objective is macroeconomics concepts like inflation, money supply, business cycles. Fourth one is role of business economist. Fifth one is multidisciplinary nature of business economics. These are the learning objectives of this particular session. Then we should go through the economics definition. In the last session 1 we discussed. Again we are repeating the definitions of economics. Total how many definitions we are studying? We are totally discussing 4. First 2 is classical economists. The remaining 2 comes under the neoclassical economists. First classical economist is Adam Smith. Adam Smith emphasizing the wealth definition. It is the study of the nature and causes of wealth of nations. In his book he is written clearly, emphasizing more and more on wealth. Whereas Alfred Marshall, the classical economist, he emphasizing the more on welfare. So then what is the definition of Marshall definition? The Marshall definition is economics is the study of mankind in the ordinary business of life, implies that in everyday life people usually seek material well-being. That means they require the welfare, not only the wealth, they require the welfare. Then the third definition is Lionel Robbins, choice or scarcity definition. Economics is the science which studies the human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. So out of the available resources, which resource will give the maximum benefit? That we called it as the choice or scarcity. Choice or scarcity definition. Next, fourth definition is Paul Samuelson, economics of growth and development. Economics is the study of how men and society choose with or without the use of money to employ scarce productivities, resources which could have alternatives uses to produce various commodities over time and distribute to the consumption now and in the future amongst various people and group of society. So that is the definition of Paul Samuelson. Paul Samuelson emphasizing the growth and development. So what we concluded? We conclude that Adam Smith is the wealth definition, Alfred Marshall is the welfare definition, Lionel Robinson's is choice or scarcity definition. Paul Samuelson is economics of growth and development. Then the next one is significance of economics. Significance of economics is business decisions making in real life. First significance. It is associated with the various fields like example statistics, mathematics, psychology. The economics associated with the various fields like statistics, mathematics, psychology, analyzing the different production methods. That means either in the underdeveloped countries the human resource is more, then automatically labor intensive technology method is used for the production purpose. But whereas in the developed countries the manpower is less and the wages are very high, so instead of using the manpower they are using the machinery power. So that we called it as the capital intensive technology method. So these are the different production methods. Understanding the various elements like price, demand, supply, production, markets. So that means how the price changes, how it will be influenced the demand, supply, production and markets. Suppose if the price of the product is increases, then the demand decreases. Demand decreases means supply, production decreases, and in the markets the price of the product is increases. Understanding the difference between the firm and industry. Firm and industry. What is the meaning of firm? Firm means an individual entity. Firm is an individual entity, whereas industry is a group of firms. Then identifying the market structures and competition among the product. So that means market structures means after industrial revolution, after introducing the currency and due to changes in the technology, there are different types of products are available in the markets. So automatically the nature of the markets are also changed. That we classified into the two types. One is the perfect competition and another one is the imperfect competition. Perfect competition concepts are explained by the classical economists, whereas imperfect competition explained by the neoclassical economists. These imperfect competition we classified into the four types. What are that? Monopoly, duopoly, oligopoly and monopolistic competition. Due to on the basis of the nature of the product, the market structures and competition among the products. So what is the significance? Easy decision making and understanding the various fields like mathematics, psychology. Psychology means how the human behavior or how the humans are responding about that particular product. When the price of the product changes, whether they are consumed more or less on the basis of the psychological concepts. Statistics on the basis of the facts and figures. Example, inflation. Analyzing the different production methods. Different production method means there are labor intensive technology method and capital intensive technology method. Understanding the various elements like price, demand, supply, production and markets. Then understanding the difference between firm and industry. So that means we are identifying the individual entity and we are also identifying the group of the firms. Then identifying the market structures. Before technological revolution or industrial revolution or currency introduced, the market is singular. only perfect competition. After changing these concepts, the markets can be classified into the two types, perfect competition and imperfect competition. In the imperfect competition, we are taking into the four types. What are that? Monopoly, duopoly, oligopoly and monopolistic competition. Then we should know what is the definition of microeconomics. The microeconomics studies economic behavior of individual economic decision makers. Individual economic decision makers. Micro means small. Micro means small. Economics. Economics in the Okinomocus word it derives. Earlier it is considered as household management, but now it is treated as how the firms, how the human behavior responding about that particular product and how they are making the decisions. The microeconomic studies. It studies the economic behavior of individual economic decision makers. That means example is consumers, workers, firms and managers. Then in this particular study involves the behavior of the economic agents on their own. Second one is their behavior interacts to form larger units, that is, or such as markets. So this is the definition of microeconomics. For examination point of view, for short answer questions, very, very important. Then the second definition is macroeconomics. Macroeconomics. It deals with the total or aggregate level of output, aggregate level of consumption, aggregate level of investment, aggregate level of employment and general price level in economy. So that means the macroeconomics deals with the totally aggregate level. Either it may be an output, or it may be a consumption, or it may be an investment, or it may be employment. So the macroeconomics word, macro means large and economics means study the human behavior and make the decisions, performance, structures, behavior and decision making of economy as a whole rather than individual markets. This includes national, regional and global economies. So that means it studies the aggregate concepts, whereas microeconomics studies the individual concepts. Examination point of view, very, very important. Then the next one is for 5 marks question, difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. The difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics is microeconomics, it studies the small part of the economy, whereas it studies the individual units of the economy, partial picture of the economy, it covers limited area of the study and it gives warm eye view of the economy. So the microeconomics studies the small part of the economy and individual units of the economy, partial picture of the economy and limited area of the study and warm's eye view of the economy. So whereas macroeconomics, it studies the large part of the economy, it studies the whole economy, it gives total picture of the economy, then it covers a wider scope. It gives us bird's eye view of the economy. So what is the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics? Microeconomics studies the smaller part, macroeconomics studies the larger part. Microeconomics studies the individual units, whereas macroeconomics studies the whole economy. Microeconomics is partial picture, macroeconomics is total picture of the economy. It covers the limited area. That means only studying about the particular firm or particular consumer. Whereas macroeconomics, it covers a wider scope. It gives us eye view in the microeconomics. Bird's eye view of the economy is macroeconomics. Then the concepts involved in the macroeconomics is national income as per syllabus. First we should know what is the meaning of national income. It is defined as the money value of all the final goods and services produced in an economy during accounting period of time, generally 1 year. In India, the first national income calculated by the Dadabhai Nehruji. At present, who is calculating the national income? The national income at present calculating the CSO. CSO means Central Statistical Organization. Then what it indicates? It is the value of money, all the goods, all the final goods. Final, here that word is very, very important. Final means not unfinished products. It taking into the consideration finished products or services produced in an economy during an accounting period. Accounting period of time means when it taking into the consideration of the financial year. Financial year when it starts April 1st and it ends with the March 31st. Generally, the national income is calculated every year wise. That means financial year wise. So what is the definition of national income? It is defined as the money value of all the final goods and services produced in an economy during an accounting period of time, generally 1 year. Then what are the concepts involved in the national income? The concepts involved in the national income is gross domestic product, gross national product, net national product, personal income, disposable income and per capita income. These are the concepts involved in the national income. So total how many concepts? 6 concepts. So for examination point of view, these 6 concepts are very, very important. On the basis of the previous question papers, all the 6 concepts are repeated in the examination. So we should go through the one by one. So first one, what is the gross domestic product? What is the meaning of gross domestic product? It is the market value of all the final goods and services produced in a country in a given time period. So what is the important in this particular definition? We should take into the consideration market value, final goods and services produced within a country and in a given time period. So from this particular definition, what we are concluded? We are concluded 4 important variables. What are that? It is the market value estimation. It take into the consideration of the final goods and services, and it should be produced within a country. 4th one, in a given time period. So that means it should not take into the consideration of unfinished products. And the final finished products are also calculated the market value. Then what is the gross national product? It is the aggregate final output of citizens and businesses of an economy in a year. So the GNP means it is the aggregate final output of citizens. That means residentials, citizens and business of an economy in a year. So what is the formula for GNP? The formula for GNP is GNP equal to the GDP plus net factor income from abroad. Or we can also write GNP equal to the consumption, investment, government expenditure, exports, M means imports, plus net factor income from abroad. Then what is the meaning of net factor income from abroad? It is the difference between income received from abroad for rendering factor services and income paid towards services rendered by foreign nations in the domestic territory of a country. That is the meaning of net factor income from abroad. For examination point of view, GDP and GNP, very, very important. Then we should know the differences. What is the meaning of GNP and what is the meaning of GDP? What is the difference? GNP, it is the value of all goods and services made by a country resident and business regardless of production location. So here location is not important. The residents of that particular country member produced whatever the goods and services for the purpose of the business. It is a sound indicator of financial well-being of that particular countries. But whereas in the GDP, it measures production inside of a country, no matter who makes it. That means, whereas here residents and businesses, that is the GNP, whereas in the GDP, inside of a country means whether the person belongs to US, India or Japan, whatever it, but it can be considered within the domestically. So it is a sound indicator of health of the economy. So that is the difference between GNP and GDP. Please remember that GNP is a residence of that particular country, whereas GDP means not only the residents, the other countries or the other citizens, what they are produced within that inside of a country, the value of the final goods and services can be considered as GDP. Then the next one is NNP. NNP means net national product. It can be derived by subtracting depreciation allowance from the GNP. Just now we discussed about what is the meaning of GNP. From GNP, what we conclude that NNP. So how we can conclude that NNP equal to the GNP minus depreciation. It can also be found out by adding the net factor income from abroad to the net domestic product. Can we write formula for NNP? NNP equal to the GNP minus depreciation. Or we can also write in another way. What is that in another way? NNP equal to NDP plus net factor income from abroad. Net factor income from abroad. So we should know the definition of GNP. From GNP we can get the NNP value. How? NNP equal to the GNP minus depreciation. Next, the next one is personal income. For examination point of view, very, very important. It is the sum of all incomes received by all individual or households during a given year. Personal income equal to national income plus transfer payments minus social security plus corporate income tax plus undistributed profits. What is the meaning of transfer income? Transfer payments, incomes which are not earned but they are received. Example of the transfer payments is old age pensions, unemployment compensation, relief payments. Example, in Telangana it is Asara Padakam. The old age people, they are getting the pension. So that is the transfer payments. So what is the formula? National income plus transfer payments minus social security plus corporate income tax plus undistributed profits. This is called the personal income. Then the next topic is disposable income. What is the formula for disposable income? All personal income is not at the disposable. To be spent on consumption, individuals have to pay personal direct taxes to the government. They are free to spend only after the payment of taxes. After the payment of taxes. So how to calculate the disposable income? To calculate the disposable income is equal to personal income minus personal direct taxes. Direct tax example is income tax. Income tax is the direct tax. Then it is a personal direct tax. So what is the formula for disposable income? Personal income minus personal direct taxes. Then the next one is per capita income. What is the meaning of per capita income? So try to remember the differentiation. Personal income and per capita income. Personal income and per capita income is not similar. Per capita income, also known as income per person. It is the mean income of the people in economic activity such as a country or city. It is calculated by taking a measure of all sources income in the aggregate and dividing it by the total population. So what is the formula for per capita income? Total income by total population. Generally, the per capita income roughly in general English called it as a average income of the individual. Average income of the individual, each person. Then the next topic is inflation. What is meant by inflation? Inflation, the inflation definition written by classical writers, when too much money chases to few goods. Who defined like this? Crowther defined. What is the definition? When too much money chases too few goods, that is called the inflation. So what is it indicates? Your quantum of the money is more, but purchasing quantity is less. So that is means when too much money chases to few goods. It is an imbalance between money supply and gross domestic product. As per Keynes, inflation is an imbalance between aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Then what is the usage of the aggregate demand and aggregate supply? Where it coincides, the aggregate demand and aggregate supply. The effective demand will be arises. That will be estimating the demand about that particular product. In an economy, if the aggregate demand for goods and services exceeds the aggregate supply, then the prices will go on rising. So that means the aggregate demand is more than that aggregate supply, then the prices of the products will grow more and more. Then what are the advantages and disadvantages of inflation? The advantages and disadvantages of inflation is, the advantages is moderate inflation is good for the economic growth. Moderate means the value in between 3 to 5 is good for the both producers as well as the consumers. Then the moderate inflation allows adjustment of real wages. Moderate inflation allows adjustment of prices, and inflation is better than deflation, which can cause recession. Inflation is better than the deflation. Why? Because deflation is the prices of the products gradually decreases. When the price of the product gradually decreases, then the supplier or the producer not willing to produce goods and services, then it leads to the recession problem in the economy. Whereas the second one is disadvantage of the inflation. It creates uncertainty and lower investment. If the inflation is continuously increasing, automatically the investment is lower. Then high inflation often lends to lower growth and less stability. Why? Because if the continuous rising of the prices means the investors are not ready to invest. Why? Because due to lack of stability, and reducing the international competitiveness, and it leads to the recession problem. And another disadvantage is fall in value of savings. The monthly income people, if the inflation increases, means their spending is more and the savings are less. If wages do not keep up, lower real wages will be arises. So these are the disadvantages. So what are the advantages? Then what are the disadvantages involved in the inflation? Then we are discussing about the types of inflation. Open inflation, suppressed inflation, galloping inflation, creeping inflation, hyperinflation. For examination point of view, several times asked about the hyperinflation. First, we should go through the one by one. What is the meaning of open inflation versus suppressed inflation? Types of inflation based on government reaction or its degree on control. The inflation can be classified two types. What are that? One is the open inflation and another one is the suppressed inflation. Open inflation means when government does not attempt to restrict inflation, it is an open inflation. That means the government is not involving in the economic activities, then the prices may go up or may go down. If the prices may go up means that is called inflation. That type of inflation we called it as open inflation. Where it is possible in the free market economy where prices are allowed to take its course. Open inflation will be occurs. That means the role of the government is nil, but it will be adjusted through the market mechanism. So that is the open inflation. That means the degree of control is 0 in the open inflation. Whereas suppressed inflation is when government prevents price rise through price controls, rationing. It is known as suppressed inflation. If the prices of the products sometimes increasing very rapidly, example onion products, the price may go up to sometimes 100 rupees, 120. At that time what the government is doing, they are distributing the onions through rations or public distribution system. Why? Because the government is interfering in the economic activity and controlling the prices. That type of inflation we called it as a suppressed inflation. Repressed inflation is another name. Suppressed inflation, the another name is repressed inflation. However, when government removes its controls, again it becomes open inflation. It leads to corruption, black marketing and artificial scarcity. So always the government should control the prices of the products. Otherwise it leads to the corruption, black marketing, artificial scarcity. Then the next one is galloping inflation. Galloping inflation means the inflation in double digit or triple digit range of 20, 100 or 200 per year is called galloping inflation or very high inflation. Then where it is occurring, it is relatively common in countries suffering from weak governments or war or evolution. Generally, where the government is unstable, that means weak governments, the galloping inflations arises. Example for the galloping inflation is Latin America. Countries like Argentina, Chile, Brazil had 50 to 700% per year in 1970s and 1980s. Argentina, Chile, Brazil. Then the next one is creeping inflation. Creeping inflation is defined as the circumstances where the inflation of a nation increases gradually but continually over time. The inflation is creeping inflation. Example is United States over the last couple of decades as pricing power of the dollar continues to decline. That is the creeping inflation. The next one is hyperinflation. Hyperinflation, for a short answer questions point of view, very very important. A condition in which prices increases rapidly as a currency loses its value. During the 1920s, prices rose at a very fast rate and the German standard of living fell. Many become worthless. An item that cost 70 German marks in 1920 required 4,200 million marks to buy in 1923. People's savings were quickly used up buying basic items of food. So hyperinflation is generally it occurred in the German and as well as the Zimbabwe. What is the meaning of hyperinflation? The prices of the products are increases and the currency loses its value. Then for examination point of view, for 5 marks question, very very important, business cycles. The business cycle, it is the periodic but irregular up and down movement in an economic activity. It is measured by fluctuations in real gross domestic product and other macroeconomic variables. How do we measure up and down movement in business activity? Percentage change in the real GDP. Then what is the meaning of real GDP? The value of final goods and services produced in a given year expressed in the process of the base year. How the base year can be framed? It is based on the index numbers. The base year can be framed on the basis of the index numbers. Then what is the meaning of business cycle? Up and down movement in business activity. Percentage change in the real GDP. Percentage change in the real GDP means the value of final goods and services produced in a given year expressed in the process of the base year. So that is the business cycle. Then the next one is, what are the causes why the business cycle or economic cycle arises in the economy? So we classified into the 2 types. Demand side, what are the reasons? Supply side, what are the reasons? The demand side is monetary policy, interest rates, higher prices, consumer business confidences, credit cycles, changes in the real wages, multiplier or accelerator effect, exchange rate movements. Supply side is real business cycle theories, technological shocks, changes in the rate of productivity. then population or demographic dividend. Inventory cycles. Inventory cycles. Inventory means to managing the stores, or generally we called it as a warehouses. How we can regulate? Through ABC analysis. ABC means always better control. Then what is the curve shape of the business cycles? The curve shape of the business cycles is, just now we discussed in the definition, up and down a measurement in business activity, that is called the business activity. So you are observing the graph. What is the up and down? Up is the peak. When it starts expansion, it reaches to the peak level, then it come down to recession, then that stages, that is the positive output gap. From these three stages, expansion, peak and recession, from this peak stage, that particular point indicates that positive output gap. Whereas when it reaches to the trough, that means lower level, when it reaches to the lower level, it indicates that negative output gap. Negative output gap. So it influences the positive output gap and negative output gap in the business cycles. How many types? Expansion, peak, recession. Then what are the features and phases of business cycle? Industrial production, demand, prices, cost, investment, employment, bank credit. These are the variables. Industrial production, demand, prices, cost, investment, employment, bank credit. So how it will be influenced? These four stages: expansion, peak, recession, trough, increasing. In all the stages, increasing except employment. Employment is gradually increasing. But whereas in the bank credit, it is liberal. But whereas in the peak stage, rapid increasing, highest, rapid increasing, cost rapid decreasing, investment increases, employment also increases, and bank credit is very level. Whereas in the recession stage, all the variables, that means industrial production, demand, prices, cost, investment, employment, and bank credit, all these are fall down. Trough period means it goes to the very lowest level and rapidly falls. So that is the difference between expansion, peak, recession and trough. Just now we are seeing in the graph what is the stages: expansion stage, peak stage, recession stage, trough stage. 4 stages. These 4 stages we are written in the tabular form, how it will be influenced. For examination point of view, very very important for this particular table for 5 marks question. Then the next one is nature and scope of business economics. The nature and scope of business economics is demand forecasting. Why demand forecasting is an essential? Because to forecasting about that particular products, what is the demand about that particular product, how much quantity they can produce, then they can anticipate what is the demand about that particular goods in future. It makes some research and conducts market surveys with a view to the tastes and fashions of the consumers and how it will be influenced the products. The business economics analyzes the demand behavior and forecasts about that particular product and quantity demanded by the consumer. So that is the first factor, demand forecasting. Then the second one is cost analysis. Cost analysis is identifying the cost to produce. As a producer, they should estimate the cost of the production. It deals with the cost estimates and the entrepreneurs the cost analysis of that particular perfume. When the cost of the product is minimizing, increasing the output by securing the several economies of scale. Economies of scale, again we divided into two types. What are that? Internal economies and external economies. Then the third point is profit analysis. Profit analysis means whether that particular business is feasible or not, and to get their secure maximum profit, or whether the uncertainty is any involved or any risk factors are involved about that particular productions. If any new innovations in the production and marketing of goods, it influences the profit analysis. Profit analysis, profit techniques, policies, and break-even analysis. Finally, capital management. Capital management. Capital management is another topic dealt in business economics. It denotes planning and controlling of the capital expenditure. Capital expenditure. Capital expenditure means to creating the assets in the business organization. It studies matters like cost capital, rate of return, selection of best project. So that is the capital management. So what is the nature and scope of business economics? The nature and scope of business economics is demand forecasting, cost analysis, profit analysis, capital management. These are the four. One is the demand forecasting, and another one is the capital cost analysis. Third one is the profit analysis. Fourth one is capital management. Then the last topic is multidisciplinary nature of business economics. How business economics associated with the other subjects. Other subjects like statistics. Why? Because when we want to make the decisions means we should know the facts and figures. Mathematics is how we should be utilizing the resources. That generally we are utilizing in the optimization techniques. Operations research. We should know the delivery product, good and services. Then what is the cost involved? Psychology. How the consumer is responding about that particular product. Financial management we should know. Why? Because how to minimizing the cost, how to maximization of the profit, how to allocate the funds, how to utilize the financial resources. We should know the financial management. So that is the multidisciplinary nature of the business economics. It is associated with the statistics, mathematics, operations research, psychology, and financial management. So my dear students, today we are discussing about the